My son, to whom I had given everything, my home, my education, my life, slammed the door in my face. I don't want my house to smell like old people. Get out, his wife yelled, and I, homeless after the fire, stood on the threshold in the ashes. In despair, I dialed a number that no one knew. My old friend, the billionaire. 5 minutes later, a Rolls-Royce pulled up. He got out and uttered 3 words that changed their lives. And before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. The smoke rose first, a dark column twisting into the Miami sky like a warning I should have heeded years ago. I was 10 minutes from home, plastic grocery bags cutting into my palms, thinking about whether I'd bought enough coffee to last the week. Mundane thoughts, the kind that evaporate when you turn onto your street and see your entire life burning. My hands went white on the steering wheel. I accelerated, that stupid human instinct, where denial fights, recognition. Maybe it's not mine. Maybe it's the Henderson's place, or the vacant rental 2 doors down. But the smoke thickened, and I knew. I'd lived in that house for 42 years. I knew its silhouette even through flames. When I reached the driveway, heat hit my face through the windshield. The front half of the house was gone. Just fire and black smoke and the wet sound of something structural giving way. Neighbors stood on their lawns filming with their phones, like my catastrophe was entertainment. A firefighter in full gear stepped in front of my car, palm raised. "Sir, you can't go in there." "That's my house." The words came out strangled. "I understand, but the structure's compromised. We need you to stay back." I stumbled out, anyway, got 3 steps toward the front door, before 2 firefighters caught my arms. They were strong. I'm not anymore. I watched them spray water into what used to be my kitchen, the room where I'd taught James to make scrambled eggs when he was 7, the room where my wife Ellen drank her morning coffee until the cancer took her 15 years ago. Fire Captain Martinez approached, ash-streaked, sympathetic in that professional way they teach you. "I'm sorry, Mr. Gray. The structure's compromised. Even if we stop the fire now, this house isn't salvageable. Do you have somewhere to go tonight?" I thought about James's house in Coral Gables, the Spanish-style place with the red tile roof. The house where I'd handed him a check for $120,000 5 years ago. "I thought I did," I said. "They worked for hours. I signed papers I didn't read, answered questions on autopilot. A neighbor, Mrs. Chen from across the street, brought me a blanket I didn't need. The August heat was suffocating even without a fire. They saved 3 things: my leather jacket, 1 photo album, a suitcase of summer clothes. Everything else drowned in water or burned to nothing." Martinez explained the electrical fire started in the kitchen, spread through old wiring faster than they could respond. I nodded like it mattered. The house where I'd raised my son after his mother died, where I'd celebrated his graduations and birthdays, where I'd planned to live until they carried me out, reduced to ash and insurance paperwork. At 7:45, sitting on the curb with ash on my face, I called James. He answered on the 4th ring. "Hey, Dad!" Television noise in the background, that hollow sound of people comfortable in their evening. "James, the house is gone. Fire. I need—" "What? Fire?" His voice went sharp, but not with concern, with inconvenience. "Dad, I'm processing this. It's been a long day. Call me in the morning and we'll talk. I don't have anywhere to sleep." A pause. I heard him breathing, heard the television change channels. "There are hotels, Dad. We'll figure this out tomorrow, I promise." Then Jennifer's voice, distant but clear. "Is that your father again? We're eating." Again, the word stuck like a fishbone. "I have to go," James said quickly. "Tomorrow. Bye." The line went dead. I stared at my phone, at the black screen reflecting my soot-covered face. Around me, firefighters coiled hoses and documented damage. The investigator's van pulled up. I got in my car and drove. The motel on Biscayne Boulevard had a flickering vacancy sign and rates I could afford without thinking. The clerk was maybe 25, bored, then sympathetic when she noticed the ash on my clothes. "How many nights?" "Just 1. I paused, reality settling. "Actually, maybe 2. I don't know yet." "Rough day?" "You could say that." The room smelled of mildew and old cigarettes. The mattress sagged in the middle. I sat on the edge and opened my wallet, pulling out the photos I'd carried for years. James at his business school graduation, cap-tilted, smile genuine. $180,000 in tuition I'd paid by selling my favorite restaurant location. The one on Ocean Drive with the ocean view. James and Jennifer's wedding. $45,000 for the reception at the Biltmore, because Jennifer had always dreamed of getting married there. A bank receipt from June. $50,000 transferred to James's account. Business expansion, he'd said. Critical opportunity. New office space for his consulting firm. I laid them on the bed like evidence. Then I checked my phone for messages. Nothing from James, nothing from Jennifer. I scrolled through 6 months of texts from my son. Increasingly brief, increasingly dismissive. Can't talk now. Busy week. We'll catch up soon. I pulled up my bank account. $127,000 in savings. $340 in cash. $1,200 in checking. The insurance would pay eventually, but that took months. I washed ash from my face and hands in the tiny bathroom. The mirror showed me an old man, 67 years old, face lined from decades running restaurants, hands scarred from kitchen work. When did I become this? When did my son stop seeing me as anything but an inconvenience? A memory surfaced, sharp and clear. Last month, I'd arrived early to their house for Sunday dinner. The kitchen window was open. I heard Jennifer's voice before I reached the door. We just need him to sign everything over, then we can put him somewhere. James's response was weak. I know, I'm working on it. I'd stood there, frozen, then walked back to my car and sat for 10 minutes before returning and knocking, pretending I hadn't heard, telling myself I'd misunderstood. Now, lying on this sagging motel bed, staring at water stains spreading across the ceiling like disease, I understood perfectly. I didn't sleep. At 2 a.m., I was still staring at those stains. At 7:30, my phone alarm pulled me from a fitful half-consciousness. I showered, put on the same smoke-scented clothes. The suitcase they'd saved contained only summer items, nothing professional. I checked my bank account again, as if the numbers might have changed. They hadn't. I texted James, I'm coming over this morning. We need to talk. 20 minutes passed. Then, not a good time. Jennifer has plans. I stared at the message. Something inside me, the shock, the numbness, crystallized into clarity. I typed, I'm coming anyway. I'll be there in 40 minutes. I started my car and entered the Coral Gables address into GPS. The drive took me past the charred remains of my house. A fire investigator's van sat in the driveway. I didn't stop. 35 minutes later, I parked across from the Spanish-style home with the red tile roof. The house where I'd handed James that check, watching his face light up with gratitude that now seemed like performance art. I sat there, engine off, watching the front door. My hands had stopped shaking. I reached for the door handle. I stepped out of the car into morning heat, already building. Across the street, the house looked perfect. Manicured lawn, blooming bougainvillea, climbing the front arch. Irrigation system running in precise arcs. I'd been here dozens of times, but today I saw it differently. The new luxury SUV in the driveway caught my eye. Jennifer's. When had they bought that? James hadn't mentioned it. The $50,000 business expansion suddenly made more sense. I crossed the street, walked up the driveway. Through the front window, I saw movement, Jennifer's silhouette against the morning light. She turned, saw me, and immediately stepped away from the window. I watched her mouth move, calling toward the back of the house. I pressed the doorbell. Footsteps approached, slow, reluctant. The peephole darkened. A long silence, then whispered voices inside. Jennifer's sharp tone, James's softer murmur. I couldn't make out words, but I understood the argument. I pressed the bell again. James, I know you're there. I saw you through the window. More whispers. Finally, the deadbolt clicked. The door opened 4 inches. The chain remained engaged. Jennifer's face appeared in the gap. Her makeup was perfect, her expression glacial. Russell, we weren't expecting you this early. My house burned down, I said evenly. I told James I was coming. Yes, and that's terrible, but we have a situation here. She didn't move to unhook the chain. I run a very specific household. I have clients coming by this afternoon. I do interior design consultations from home. I can't have... She paused, choosing words carefully. I can't have the smell of smoke and old age in my space. It's not personal. It's professional. I leaned toward the gap, trying to see past her. James stood 15 feet back in the hallway, hands in his pockets, studying the floor tiles like they held secrets. James? My voice cracked slightly, the first emotion breaking through my control. Son, look at me. His eyes lifted briefly, met mine, then dropped back to the floor. He said nothing. Jennifer continued, voice bright with false reason. We discussed this last night after your call. James agrees with me. You need proper care, Russell. A facility. There are very nice retirement communities with full services. That's what you need at your age, not to burden your children. My jaw tightened. I forced words through clenched teeth. I raised you in that house that burned. I paid for this house. I gave you $50,000 2 months ago when you said you needed it. I'm asking for one night. One night, James. Jennifer's face hardened into something crystalline and cold. And we appreciate everything you've done. But this is our home now, our rules. You can't just show up and expect us to drop everything. She glanced back at James. Right, honey? Right, he whispered. You should go, Russell. We'll call you in a few days when things settle down. I tried once more, voice steady despite the rage building in my chest. James, last Christmas you told me I was the best father you could have asked for. You said you'd always be there for me, the way I was there for you. Was that true, or was it just words? James finally looked up, but not at me, at the wall beside my head. Dad, you don't understand. We have our own lives now, our own pressures. I understand perfectly, I said. I understand I'm standing outside the house I helped you buy, asking my son for one night of shelter, and you won't even open the door. Jennifer cut in, her voice sharp. Russell, you're making this harder than it needs to be. You're a grown man. You have resources. Hotels exist. Retirement communities exist. Your expectation that we should disrupt our lives for your emergency is, frankly, entitled. Entitled? The word came out harder than I intended. I gave you... Gifts, she interrupted. You gave gifts, and we said thank you. That doesn't mean we owe you our home. I looked past her to my son. James, please, I'm your father. He swallowed hard, finally spoke directly, though still to the floor. I know, Dad, but Jennifer's right. We can't do this right now. I'm sorry. I stood there for a long moment, studying the 4-inch gap between us. The chain lock. The metaphor was so obvious it hurt. No, I said quietly, you're not. But you will be. Jennifer's eyes narrowed slightly, but she said nothing. The door closed. The deadbolt clicked. I stood on their front step, staring at the closed door. Behind it, I heard Jennifer's voice, bright and false. There, that wasn't so hard. He'll figure it out. He always does. James's response was too quiet to hear. My hands were shaking again, but not from weakness. From rage carefully controlled. I turned, walked down the driveway. A car pulled in 2 houses down, Mrs. Rodriguez, whom I'd met at James's 4th of July barbecue 2 years ago. She got out with grocery bags, looked at me, then at the closed door behind me. Understanding crossed her face. She offered a small, sad smile and walked to her own house. Even the neighbors saw what my son wouldn't acknowledge. I sat in my car, doors closed, privacy restored. I pulled out my phone. There were people I could call. Tony, my old business partner in Arizona. My cousin in Orlando. But calling them meant admitting this happened, meant spreading the story of my son's cruelty across the family network. Not yet. Then I remembered. A number I hadn't called in 15 years. Victor Carlson. The memory came sharp. 1995. A kitchen fire in Victor's first restaurant location. I'd pulled him from the smoke before the ceiling collapsed, my jacket catching fire. Both of us stumbling into the street, coughing. Victor, then just a struggling entrepreneur, gripping my shoulders. Anything you ever need, Russell. Ever. You saved my life. I'd lost track of Victor after his restaurant empire exploded into a national chain, then sold for hundreds of millions. 15 years of silence. Would the number even work? My thumb shook as I scrolled through my oldest contacts. There. Victor Carlson. Miami number. I stared at it. This was humiliation. Calling a man I hadn't spoken to in over a decade. Asking for help. But what choice did I have? I pressed dial. The phone rang once. Twice. My chest tightened. Hello? The voice was older but unmistakable. My throat closed. I forced words out. Victor, it's Russell Gray. I know it's been a long time, but... Russell? Victor's voice pulled me back from the edge. Older, weathered by decades, but unmistakable. I gripped the phone tighter, trying to force words past the knot in my throat. Victor, it's Russell Gray. I know it's been a long time, but... Russell? My friend? How many years has it been? 15? 20? 15? Since your retirement party. The one where he'd sold his restaurant empire for $300 million and announced he was moving into investment. I'd attended, proud of his success, never thinking I'd need him like this. Silence stretched. Then his voice dropped, concern flooding through. "What's wrong? You sound... Tell me what happened." That's when I realized I was crying. Silent tears running down my face, the first since Ellen's funeral 15 years ago. I wiped them roughly with my free hand, cleared my throat. My house burned down yesterday. Everything's gone. I went to my son for help, and he... My voice cracked. He wouldn't even let me inside. James did what? Victor's shock was genuine. Your son? The boy you put through Harvard? Not a boy anymore, a stranger, with a wife who called me a burden. Tell me everything. Start from the beginning. So I did. Sitting in my car across from my son's locked door, I explained the fire, the motel, the phone call where James dismissed me. As I spoke, memories flooded back, sharp and painful. I saw James at 8 years old, the morning after Ellen's funeral, his small face wet with tears, my promise whispered in the dark. I'll take care of everything, son. Always. I'd meant it. I'd sold La Bella Vista, my first restaurant, my name above the door, to pay for his education. $180,000 so he could attend Harvard Business School. James hugging me at graduation. I'll make you proud, Dad. I'll pay you back tenfold. The wedding 5 years ago surfaced next. James introducing Jennifer, me sensing something predatory in how she assessed my watch, my car, asking pointed questions about my portfolio. The $45,000 reception at the Biltmore Hotel. Jennifer insisting on only the best because James deserves it after all his hard work. Me writing the check. James squeezing my shoulder. You're the best, Dad. Once my consulting firm takes off, I'm paying you back. Every penny. With interest. I'd waved it off. Family doesn't keep score. How catastrophically wrong I'd been. Victor listened without interrupting. I continued. The $120,000 down payment on the Coral Gables house, presented as helping young people start out. The furniture loans, the car payments. Then 2 months ago, the $50,000 for James's business expansion. Critical opportunity, Dad. I'll triple this investment in 6 months. I'd seen the Rolex last week, seen Jennifer's new designer wardrobe, seen the luxury SUV in their driveway this morning. The business expansion money had vanished into their lifestyle while I drove a 10-year-old sedan. How much total? Victor asked quietly. I pulled up my banking app, scrolled through years of transfers. Over 400,000, maybe more. I stopped counting. And he gave you a locked door and his wife's insults. I don't want revenge, Victor. I just want... You want justice, he interrupted. And you'll have it. But first you need shelter, dignity, and a plan. I'm on my way. Victor, you don't have to. Where are you right now? Exactly where? Sitting in my car, outside my son's house, the house I helped buy. He just shut the door in my face. The address. Give me the address. I recited it. Don't move. I'm 20 minutes away. We're going to fix this, Russell, not the house. That's just wood and nails. We're going to fix what really matters, your dignity. The line went dead before I could respond. I sat in the silence, the car suddenly too small. I opened the door, stepped out, leaned against the roof. The Miami heat pressed down. Another scorcher building, temperatures climbing toward the 90s. I looked at my son's house. Every window, every tile, every perfectly trimmed hedge. My money made this possible. And they'd locked me out like a trespasser. Movement caught my eye. Jennifer appeared at the front window, phone to her ear, gesturing animatedly. Talking about me, probably. Spinning her narrative. Russell showed up unannounced. Can you believe it? So entitled. We had to turn him away for our own sanity. James appeared beside her, looking anxious. He glanced toward the street, saw me standing there. For a moment our eyes met. His hand rose, a half wave, an apology gesture. Then Jennifer touched his arm, said something, and James turned away from the window. My phone buzzed. Text from James. Dad, please leave. You're making this harder. We'll talk in a few days when everyone's calmer. I typed back. I'm not leaving yet. Someone's coming for me. James. Who? I didn't answer. Let them wonder. Let them feel uncertainty for once. I checked the time. 9:35 a.m. Victor said 20 minutes. I scanned the street, watching for... What? I hadn't seen Victor in 15 years. The man had gone from struggling restaurateur to billionaire investor. He could be driving anything. 2 minutes later, I heard it before I saw it. The deep, aristocratic purr of a 12-cylinder engine. At the end of the block, a vehicle rounded the corner. Black, massive, gleaming like a predator in the Florida sun. A Rolls-Royce Phantom. My breath caught. The car glided down the street, impossibly smooth, impossibly silent despite its size. Neighbors' heads turned. Mrs. Rodriguez stepped onto her porch, grocery bag forgotten. A jogger stopped mid-stride. The Rolls-Royce pulled to the curb directly in front of James's house, not across the street where I'd parked, but right at the driveway entrance. Impossible to miss, impossible to ignore. The engine cut off. The silence felt profound. I straightened, heart suddenly pounding. The driver's door opened. A man emerged from the Rolls-Royce, tall, silver-haired, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than the contents of my destroyed house. Victor Carlson, at 69, looked nothing like the scrappy young restaurateur I remembered. This man radiated wealth and authority, but the eyes were the same, sharp, intelligent, kind. He saw me across the street, and his face transformed. The executive mask dropped, replaced by genuine emotion. He strode across the pavement, arms opening. Russell Gray, still too stubborn to ask for help until you're drowning. He pulled me into a bear hug. No hesitation despite my ash-stained clothes, the smell of smoke and desperation clinging to me. Victor, I'm sorry to drag you into... Stop. His voice was firm but warm. You saved my life 40 years ago. You think I'd forget? You think I wouldn't come when you need me? It's been so long, I thought maybe... That I'd forgotten? Impossible. Brothers don't forget brothers. I couldn't speak. My throat was too tight. Victor pulled back, hands on my shoulders, studying my face with the intensity of a doctor examining symptoms. You look like someone broke you. We're going to fix that. The words were simple, but the conviction behind them was absolute. I saw it in his eyes. Victor hadn't just come to help. He'd come to wage war. The reunion was impossible to ignore. Mrs. Rodriguez on her porch, mouth open. A teenage boy across the street filming on his phone. 2 women power-walking had stopped to stare. And at James's house, the front door opened. Jennifer stepped onto the porch, arms crossed, face calculating. She was assessing. Expensive car, expensive clothes. Clearly important connection to me. This wasn't in her plan. Behind her, James appeared, pale, uncertain. Victor guided me toward the Rolls-Royce, one hand on my back, a gesture of protection and solidarity. Excuse me? Hello? Jennifer descended the porch steps, smile fixed in place, her professional face. I'm sorry, but who are you? Victor didn't turn, didn't acknowledge her. He kept walking, kept guiding me toward the car. Jennifer's smile tightened. I'm talking to you. That's my father-in-law. You're... Victor finally looked at her. Not a glance, an assessment. 5 seconds of complete attention that somehow conveyed absolute dismissal. Then he looked away, back to me. Come on, we're leaving. Excuse me? Jennifer's voice rose. Are you going to let him just... Victor stopped, turned to face her fully. His voice was ice-cold, carrying across the yard to the gathering neighbors. And I'm choosing not to listen. Russell, the car. He opened the Rolls-Royce's rear passenger door. Cream leather interior, wood trim, the scent of luxury wafting out. You're coming with me. Not a question, a declaration. 3 words that changed everything. I hesitated, looking back at my son. James had descended the porch steps, hand raised. Dad, wait, who is this? What's happening? I held his gaze, my voice steady for the first time since the fire. This is Victor Carlson, someone who actually cares whether I have a roof over my head. James's face crumbled. Jennifer grabbed his arm, hissing something urgent. I caught fragments. Find out who that man is. Now. Victor gently guided me into the car. The leather seat accepted me like an embrace. He closed the door with a solid, expensive thunk, walked around to the driver's side with measured steps. Through the window, I saw James calling out, his voice desperate but too late. Dad, please. Who is Victor Carlson? Can we just talk about this? You had your chance to talk, I said, though he couldn't hear me through the glass. This morning, behind a locked door. The Rolls-Royce purred to life. As we pulled away from the curb, I saw Jennifer in the side mirror, phone already out, frantically typing. James just stood there, frozen, watching his father disappear. The car glided down the street, silent and smooth. I watched through the rear window as my son's house receded. James remained on the lawn, a statue of regret. Jennifer had vanished inside, strategizing, no doubt. Don't look back, Victor said from the driver's seat. The past is gone. We focus forward. Forward to where? My place. Miami Beach. Ocean view, guest suite, privacy, and then we talk strategy. I shifted in the leather seat. Strategy? Victor's expression hardened. You didn't think I drove over here just to give you a bed, did you? I came because someone needs to teach your son and his wife a lesson. A legal, perfectly legitimate lesson, but a lesson nonetheless. The car turned onto Main Highway, heading east toward the beach. Through tinted windows, Miami scrolled past. Palm trees, Art Deco architecture, tourists with cameras. My old life was west, behind us. I don't want revenge, I said quietly. I just want justice, Victor finished. I know. That's what I'm offering. Not revenge, justice. There's a difference. What kind of justice? His smile was thin, calculated. The legal kind. The financial kind. The kind that makes them understand what they threw away. He paused at a red light, turned to look directly at me. How much money have you given James over the years? Total. I exhaled. Over 400,000, maybe closer to 500 if I count everything. And documentation? Some, the major amounts, the house down payment, the business school tuition, the most recent 50,000. Good. The light changed. The Rolls-Royce accelerated smoothly. Were they loans or gifts? I called them loans. James always said he'd pay me back, but we never formalized. Text messages, emails, any written acknowledgement of debt? I thought back through years of conversations. Yes, some texts. James saying, I'll pay you back, I promise, or just a loan, Dad, I'm good for it. Victor nodded, satisfied. Then we have options. First thing Monday morning, we visit my attorney. David Holmes specializes in family law and estate planning. He's handled delicate situations for me. Victor, I don't want to destroy James. He's still my son. No, Victor agreed. You don't want to destroy him. You want to educate him. Sometimes people need to face consequences to understand what they had. The car climbed the bridge toward Miami Beach. Water sparkled below, boats cutting white wakes through blue. My phone buzzed. Text from James. Dad, please call me. We need to talk about this. Who was that man? Mom always said you had no important friends. She said that's why your restaurants never expanded. What else did she lie about? I stared at the message. Mom always said. My late wife, dead 15 years, being used to justify their assumptions about my insignificance. I showed the phone to Victor. He read it, jaw tightening. Your wife, James's mother. When did she pass? 15 years ago. Cancer. And James was 23. Just finished undergrad. Victor's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. So he's been an adult his entire relationship with Jennifer. He made his choices consciously. He glanced at the phone again. Don't respond yet. Let him wonder. Information is power, Russell. The less they know, the less they can prepare. I pocketed the phone. The Rolls-Royce pulled into a gated community. High walls, security guard who waved Victor through with recognition. We wound through streets lined with mansions, each more impressive than the last. Here, Victor said, pulling into a circular driveway. Home. I looked up at a 3-story Mediterranean villa, white stucco and blue tile. Balconies overlooking the ocean, palace-like, intimidating. Victor, I can't. Yes, you can. He killed the engine, came around to open my door. You can because I'm not asking. I'm insisting. Now come inside. We have planning to do. I stepped out into salt air and sunshine. Behind me, my old life burned. Victor led me through double doors into a foyer of marble and light. The villa defied comprehension, original artwork on walls, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Atlantic, space that breathed wealth at every turn. I felt small, diminished, carrying my leather jacket and single suitcase like a refugee. This way? Victor guided me upstairs to the guest suite. It was larger than my destroyed living room. King bed, private bathroom with ocean view, balcony facing endless water. He opened the closet. Clothes hung there, still tagged. I called ahead. My assistant got basics in your size. Clothes, toiletries. Throw away what doesn't fit. Victor, this is too much. I can't. Stop. His voice was firm but kind. In 1985, you pulled me from a burning kitchen. I had second-degree burns, smoke inhalation. Doctors said 5 more minutes, and I'd be dead. That was 40 years ago. You don't owe me a lifetime of... I owe you my life. Everything I built came after that day. My chain, my investments, my family, none of it exists if you don't act. So yes, I owe you exactly this much. More. I couldn't argue. My throat was too tight. Freshen up, he said. Meet me on the terrace in 20 minutes. We need to talk strategy. I showered in the marble bathroom, watching ash and smoke residue spiral down the drain. The hot water felt like absolution I didn't deserve. I dressed in new clothes, they fit perfectly, and found Victor on the terrace overlooking the ocean. A chef I hadn't met brought lunch. Grouper, fresh vegetables, iced water in crystal glasses. Victor waited until we were alone before speaking. Tell me everything, not just the fire, the whole pattern. So I did. The words poured out. Business school tuition, the wedding, the house down payment, the constant loans that became expected, the furniture, the cars, the $50,000 2 months ago for business expansion. I met James once, Victor said when I paused. 3 years ago. That charity gala for restaurant workers' relief. You introduced us. Remember? I searched my memory, vaguely. You two talked. He pitched me, hard. Wanted me to hire his consulting firm to optimize my portfolio. I asked what qualified him. He said, my Harvard MBA and my father's industry connections. The words hit like a slap. He used my name? Like currency. I told him no. He got angry, said I was wasting an opportunity. You apologized for him. Victor's expression darkened. I should have warned you then. I told him about last month. Arriving early to drop off a birthday check, the front door ajar. Jennifer's voice from the kitchen. We need the will updated before he gets too old to sign legal documents. Once everything's ours, we can place him somewhere safe and sell that house. James, hesitant. He's only 67. He's healthy. Jennifer, sharp. He's getting forgetful. Making poor decisions. We frame it as protection. I'd frozen check in hand, then quietly left it in the mailbox and driven away. Told myself I'd misunderstood. Victor's face went cold. They were planning to institutionalize you and take everything. That's not greed, Russell. That's elder abuse. You understand that, right? I nodded. The reality settled like ice in my stomach. Here's what we do. Monday, we see my attorney, David Holmes, best family law specialist in Florida. We document everything, loans, promises, patterns of manipulation. Then we hit them with legal demands for repayment. He leaned forward. Not revenge, justice. What if they can't pay? Victor smiled grimly. Then they learn what real consequences feel like. He made a call, putting it on speaker. A woman answered, Rebecca Stewart, Investigations. Rebecca, I need a full financial workup. Fast turnaround. He provided James and Jennifer's information. Rebecca asked no questions. She'd clearly done this before. Spending patterns, debt levels, income verification, asset analysis. I need to know if these people are who they claim to be. 72 hours, Rebecca said. Make it 48. Double your usual rate. After hanging up, Victor looked at me. Knowledge is ammunition. We load the gun before we aim. Silence settled. I watched pelicans dive beyond the breakers. What if they can't pay? I asked. $267,000 plus interest. What if they genuinely don't have it? Victor refilled my water. Then we offer terms. Payment plan, collateral, wage garnishment. David will have options. And if they refuse, then we pursue legal remedies, liens, asset seizure if necessary. But people like James and Jennifer, they're used to manipulating through guilt. When faced with actual legal consequences, they usually fold. My phone buzzed. Another text from James. The 7th since we left Coral Gables. Dad, please! Who is Victor Carlson? Why won't you answer? Jennifer found articles online. He's worth hundreds of millions. How do you know him? Why didn't you ever mention him? We need to talk. Please call. I showed it to Victor. Notice what he's asking? Not, are you okay? Not, I'm sorry. Just, how do you know someone rich? And why didn't you tell us? Victor's voice was cold, already calculating how to exploit it. Maybe I'm being too harsh. Read it again. Really read it. I did. Not one word of apology. Not one expression of concern for my well-being. Just questions about Victor's wealth. He's panicking, Victor observed. They're realizing they misjudged the situation. Good. Let them panic. I set the phone face down. Should I respond? Eventually, but not today. Today you rest. Tomorrow we plan. Monday we attack. Victor's phone chimed. He checked it, eyebrows rising. Rebecca works fast. Preliminary findings already. He opened the email, then turned his phone so I could see. Subject line: Gray Financial Analysis. Initial report. The bullet points made my stomach drop. Credit card debt, $87,340 across 7 cards. Mortgage status, 2 months behind on payments. Business revenue, James Gray Consulting, down 64% year over year. Recent luxury purchases, $31,500 in past 90 days. Projected insolvency, 4-6 months without major capital injection. The $50,000 I gave him, I said quietly, for business expansion. Went straight to servicing debt and feeding their lifestyle, Victor finished. They're in a death spiral, Russell. They needed you not as family, but as a financial lifeline. When you became inconvenient, homeless, needing help instead of giving it, you became disposable. Disposable. Exactly what I'd felt outside that locked door. My phone buzzed. James, calling now. Don't answer, Victor said. Not yet. Monday, after we file the demand letter, take his calls. Let him explain himself while staring at legal consequences. The phone stopped ringing. 30 seconds later, a voicemail notification appeared. Victor stood. I have calls to make. David needs briefing before Monday. Make yourself at home. And Russell? He waited until I met his eyes. You're safe here. Whatever happens next, you're protected. Remember that. He walked inside, leaving me alone on the terrace. I sat listening to waves, feeling sun warm my face. For the first time in 36 hours, I wasn't afraid. Just calm. The calm before the storm. I picked up my phone and pressed play on James's voicemail. James's voice came through carefully modulated, concern mixed with hurt. Dad, it's me. I know you're angry. You have every right to be. Jennifer and I talked, and we realized we handled yesterday badly. Very badly. But this Victor person, Dad, I looked him up. He's incredibly wealthy, and you never mentioned him. That hurts. It makes me wonder what else you haven't told us. Are you being influenced by someone with ulterior motives? Someone who doesn't know our family history? Please, let's talk before you do anything rash. I love you, Dad. Call me. I played it twice, hearing what Victor heard, not apology, but manipulation and deflection. The weekend passed in productive tension. Saturday evening, Rebecca sent updated findings. Jennifer's credit cards, maxed out on kitchen renovation, $48,000. Designer wardrobe, $19,000. Luxury vacation to Turks and Caicos, $12,000. All in the past 3 months, all while claiming financial stress. Sunday, Victor and I met David Holmes at his office. Special Sunday session, Victor's influence opening doors even on weekends. David was precise, 50s, silver-haired like Victor but leaner. He reviewed evidence methodically, loan agreements via text, bank transfers, patterns of broken promises. The text messages are clear acknowledgement of debt, he said. I'll pay you back, repeated across 5 years, establishes pattern and intent. But we're family, I said. Will a judge really enforce this? Family doesn't exempt people from contracts. If anything, taking advantage of family trust makes the case stronger. David made notes. You have standing, evidence, and clear damages. He drafted the demand letter, calculating total debt at $267,000, principal plus 6% annual interest over 5 years. Clinical language, devastating in its precision. I signed the authorization. My hand didn't shake. Monday morning at 9, a legal courier rang the doorbell at James's house. Jennifer signed for the certified letter, her hand trembling as she saw Holmes and Associates, attorneys at law, on the return address. I imagined her tearing it open. Victor had given me a copy, itemized list of loans, dates, amounts, interest calculations, total sum due, 30-day deadline, consequences of non-payment, judgment, liens, wage garnishment. At the bottom, David Holmes's signature and mine. At 11:30, my phone exploded with calls. I was prepared, sitting in Victor's study. Victor beside me, speakerphone ready. I answered on the 5th call. Dad, what is this? A lawyer? A demand for $267,000? This is insane. You can't do this. James's voice was barely controlled panic. I can, actually, I said calmly. David Holmes verified it. Those were loans, James. You promised repayment. I have the text messages. But we're family. You don't sue family. You're right. Family doesn't lock doors on family either. But here we are. Jennifer's voice in the background sharp. Let me talk to him. She grabbed the phone. Her voice dripped false sweetness turned acid. Russell, this is ridiculous. You're being manipulated by some rich friend who doesn't understand our relationship. Those weren't loans. They were gifts. Any judge will see that. Any judge will see the text messages where James called them loans and promised repayment, I said. My attorney is confident. She dropped pretense. We don't have $267,000? You know we don't. This is you trying to punish us for one mistake. Then you have a problem. The letter outlines payment plan options. David Holmes is available to discuss terms. Or you can refuse and we proceed to court. James's voice, distant but audible. Dad, please. This is the bill for a closed door, James. You made a choice. These are the consequences. I hung up. Victor nodded approval. Well done. Now we wait. After I hung up, I set the phone on Victor's desk. My hand was steady. No tremor, no hesitation. Something had fundamentally shifted. Victor switched off the call recorder. That was perfect. Cold, factual, unshakable. I feel like a man who knows his rights. I looked at the phone. He's going to call back. Let him. As predicted, the phone buzzed. James calling again. I silenced it. Rebecca's sending her full report this afternoon, Victor said, but the preliminary numbers tell the story. They're drowning. That $50,000 was a Band-Aid on a severed artery. My phone buzzed with a text. Jennifer, you're making a huge mistake. We will fight this and we will win. You're going to regret embarrassing us like this. I showed it to Victor. Screenshot that. David will want it. I screenshotted the message, then blocked Jennifer's number. What happens now? Now they scramble. They'll try to raise money, maybe borrow from her parents. They'll look for attorneys they can't afford, and through it all, they'll call you. Can they show up here? Gated community. They'd need clearance. You're safe. As we walked toward the dining room, my phone buzzed repeatedly. 7 new messages from James, each more desperate. Dad, please. We can work this out. Don't do this. I'm begging you. I pocketed the phone without responding. Marco had prepared grouper with mango salsa. The table overlooked endless ocean, blue horizon, infinite possibility. Eat, Victor said. You'll need your strength. This is just the beginning. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered cautiously. Russell Gray? A woman's voice, professional. Yes? This is Amanda Peterson from Coral Gables, First National Bank. I'm calling regarding the mortgage account for James and Jennifer Gray. You're listed as emergency contact. The account is now 3 months delinquent, and we're beginning foreclosure proceedings. 3 months. In June, when James asked for $50,000, he said the business was thriving. He was 3 months behind on his mortgage. I'm no longer involved in their financial affairs, I said. Please remove me as reference and emergency contact. Sir, if you could just... I've retained legal counsel. All communications should go through my attorney, David Holmes at Holmes & Associates. I hung up, looked at Victor. The bank. Foreclosure proceedings. Already? They're worse off than Rebecca thought. My phone buzzed. Text from unknown number. Dad, it's James. Jennifer broke my phone. Please, 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 call me. The bank just called. They're foreclosing. We need help. I know you're angry, but please don't let us lose our house. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please. I read it aloud. Victor listened, expression unchanged. What do you want to do? I thought about the house, the beautiful Spanish-style home, the house I gave them the down payment for, $120,000, handed over with pride and love, the house they refused to shelter me in. I want to watch them face consequences, I said slowly. Real consequences, the kind I never made them face because I was too busy being a loving father. And if they lose the house, then they'll understand what it feels like to lose your home, to have nowhere to go, to ask for help and hear doors locking. Victor nodded. All right then, we proceed. My phone rang again. James, I sent it to voicemail. How long before they break completely? Days, not weeks. They're over-leveraged, underprepared, panicking. People like that make mistakes. Victor paused. The question is, what do you want from this? Just payment or something more? I looked out at the ocean. What did I want? I want them to understand what they threw away, I said finally. My phone buzzed. Email from Rebecca Stewart. Gray investigation, final report with exhibits. Victor saw it too. That's the full analysis. Everything we need to know. He stood. Come on. Let's see exactly how deep the hole goes. We walked to Victor's study, lunch forgotten. The phone kept buzzing, messages, calls, desperate pleas. I ignored them all. This is the bill for a closed door, and payment is due. Rebecca's report filled Victor's monitor, 43 pages of devastating detail. I scrolled slowly, absorbing each revelation. Credit card debt, mortgage delinquency, business failures. But then I reached page 38, and my breath stopped. Text message exhibit. Jennifer to her friend Carla, dated July 28th. Once we get conservatorship, we control everything. The house sale, his assets, placement decisions. Marcus says it's easy with elderly parents, especially after trauma. I read it twice. The words burned. This is from 3 weeks before my fire, I said quietly. Victor leaned closer. They were planning this before you lost your home. The fire just accelerated their timeline, which means closing the door wasn't impulse. My voice sounded distant, disconnected. It was strategy. They wanted me desperate. This is attempted elder financial abuse, Victor said. Textbook case. David needs to see this immediately. By Monday evening, Jennifer had found an attorney. Marcus Webb, Victor's contact at the courthouse, said he was known for aggressive tactics and questionable ethics. The retainer was $15,000 they didn't have. Jennifer convinced her sister Diane to loan them the money, claiming I'd turned vindictive and abusive. Tuesday morning, David Holmes called. Webb filed a counterclaim, alleging all transfers were gifts, claiming you're suffering from diminished capacity following the fire, accusing Victor of undue influence. It's nonsense, but it'll buy them time. How much time? 2 weeks, maybe 3. We'll need depositions, evidence presentation. They're escalating. Throughout Tuesday, my phone filled with messages from family. Cousin Linda. Jennifer called, said you're suing them after all they've done for you. She says you're not thinking clearly. My old business partner, Tony. Russell, buddy, what's going on? This Victor guy, is he taking advantage? Even my late wife's sister. I'm worried about these rash decisions. The fire must have triggered something. Jennifer had contacted 17 people in 8 hours, spinning a consistent narrative. I was having a breakdown, the fire triggered trauma, I was being manipulated by a wealthy stranger. They were just trying to protect me. Each message stung, but I recognized the strategy. Isolate me socially, make me doubt myself, paint them as concerned victims. Tuesday afternoon, Victor's phone rang. He glanced at the screen, eyebrows rising, then put it on speaker. Mr. Carlson? Jennifer's voice dripping false concern. I'm calling about Russell. We're very worried. He's not himself after the fire. This lawsuit is evidence of trauma-induced irrationality. As his family, we're asking you to help us get him proper psychological care. Victor's response was ice. Mrs. Gray, I've known Russell for 40 years. He's the sanest man I know. Your concern is touching, but decades too late. Lose this number. He hung up, blocked her. She tried twice more from different numbers. Victor blocked those too. Tuesday evening, Rebecca called with news. Coral Gables. First National received an anonymous tip about undisclosed debts and financial instability. The banks initiated a full audit of their mortgage. Jennifer texted me from a new number within an hour. You think you're so clever? Sicking the bank on us. This is harassment. Our attorney will add it to the countersuit. I showed it to Victor. He smiled enigmatically. Interesting. We didn't do that. Rebecca's voice came through the speaker. Banks have whistleblower hotlines. Anyone can report suspected mortgage fraud. Just saying. By Tuesday night, I had 23 messages from family and friends, all echoing Jennifer's narrative. Mentally unstable. Being manipulated. Need help. The fire broke something. I deleted them without responding. You should answer some, Victor suggested. At least the ones from people who genuinely care. And say what? Jennifer tried to have me declared incompetent so she could steal my assets. They wouldn't believe me. They'd think it proved her point. Fair enough. Let the court establish truth. David's email arrived. Webb's counterclaim officially filed. Emergency hearings scheduled Friday. Prepare for depositions. They'll question your mental state. I've arranged for Dr. Patricia Morrison to conduct cognitive assessment tomorrow, 10 a.m. Her evaluation will demolish their claims. I typed back, understood. David's second email. Webb subpoenaed your medical records, banking records, phone records. They're looking for anything to support their narrative. I thought back over the past week, losing my house, being rejected by my son, moving in with a billionaire, hiring investigators, demanding hundreds of thousands in repayment. On paper, without context, it could look erratic. Victor, what if they're right? What if a jury thinks I've lost my mind? He set down his tablet. Then we show them the context, the conservatorship texts, the financial exploitation, the locked door. We show them a man who finally opened his eyes. Rebecca called at 9 p.m. James visited 3 friends today. College buddies, all successful businessmen. All turned him down for loans. How do you know? Body language when he left. Slumped shoulders, head down, classic rejection posture. Plus, I have a contact who knows Thomas Wright's wife. She confirmed James tried to borrow a ridiculous amount, and Thomas said, anyone that desperate is a bad investment. I felt something, not satisfaction, but validation. Actions have consequences. Jennifer's sister, Diane, posted on Facebook, Rebecca continued. Sometimes you learn who your real family is when times get tough. Disappointed doesn't begin to cover it. She's regretting the loan already. After Rebecca hung up, Victor poured bourbon. Drink, you've earned it. I accepted but didn't drink. They're falling apart. They are. Part of me feels responsible, like I'm destroying them. No. Victor's voice was firm. They destroyed themselves. You're just removing your support from their self-destruction. There's a difference. My phone buzzed. Text from unknown number. Dad, it's James. Jennifer took my phone again. I don't know what to do. Everything's falling apart. Our attorney says we might lose. Friends won't help. Mom would be ashamed of what I've become. I'm ashamed. But I don't know how to fix it. Jennifer says we have to fight you, or lose everything. But fighting you feels like losing everything anyway. I'm so tired, Dad. I read it twice. The desperation was palpable. Then I remembered, I don't want it to smell like old age in my house. I showed the text to Victor. What do you want to do? I typed. James, you're tired because you're fighting the wrong battle. Stop fighting me and start fighting the person who got you into this mess. When you're ready for an honest conversation, without Jennifer controlling the narrative, call David Holmes. Until then, I have nothing to say. I hit send before reconsidering. Victor nodded. Good. You left the door open, but on your terms. My phone rang immediately. James, calling. I stared at it, thumb hovering. Don't, Victor advised. He needs to sit with what you said. Make him think. Make him choose. The call went to voicemail. I didn't listen. Not yet. Tomorrow's Wednesday, Victor said. Dr. Morrison at 10, then we review David's response brief. Thursday, we prepare for Friday's hearing. My phone buzzed. Email from Webb's office. Notice of deposition. Russell Gray, August 24th. Regarding mental capacity and financial decision-making. The counterattack continues, but so does my resolve. I looked at Victor. Let them depose me. Let them question my capacity. When I'm done, they'll wish they hadn't. Victor smiled. There's the Russell I remember. The one who built 3 restaurants from nothing. The one who doesn't back down. I'd forgotten him. He's back now, and he's done being anyone's ATM. My phone continued buzzing through the night. Messages, calls, emails. Counterattack from every angle. But morning came. Wednesday dawned clear and bright. Dr. Morrison arrived exactly at 10. Dr. Patricia Morrison was 60-something, silver-haired, with intelligent eyes that missed nothing. She spent 3 hours with me, memory tests, problem-solving exercises, logical reasoning, emotional stability evaluation. She asked about the fire, the family conflict, my decision-making process. I was calm, articulate, explaining everything with clear logic and supporting evidence. I showed her the conservatorship texts, the financial records, the pattern of manipulation. She took notes, expression neutral, but I caught small nods of understanding. At 2 p.m., she delivered her verbal assessment with David Holmes on speakerphone. Mr. Gray demonstrates cognitive function in the superior range for his age. His decision-making is rational, well-reasoned, and supported by documentary evidence. There is absolutely no indication of diminished capacity, undue influence, or impairment of any kind. She paused. In my professional opinion, any claim to the contrary would be frivolous. Relief flooded through me. Doctor, David asked, in your professional opinion, is Mr. Gray capable of managing his financial and legal affairs? Completely. I'd trust him to manage mine. Thursday morning, David called with major news. While reviewing your old files, the ones in that fireproof safe that survived, I found signed receipts for the major loans. I did? 2020 through 2023. Each major transfer, James signed acknowledgement. Look at this one. I, James Gray, acknowledge receipt of $180,000 as a loan from Russell Gray to be repaid. His signature right there. Memory surfaced slowly. I told him it was for tax documentation. He signed without reading. Well, his laziness just became our smoking gun. These are enforceable contracts, Russell. Webb's entire defense just evaporated. Thursday afternoon, James's 3 remaining business clients, all small companies who hired him for financial consulting, terminated their contracts. All 3 citing loss of confidence in provider stability. Rebecca's report noted they'd received anonymous emails, detailed information about James's personal financial crisis, bankruptcy risk, poor money management. The irony was devastating. A financial consultant who couldn't manage his own finances. James's business revenue dropped to 0. Friday morning, the emergency hearing. I chose not to attend, let David handle it, but he called afterward with the results. Russell, we destroyed them. Judge Reynolds was not impressed with Webb's tactics. What happened? I presented Dr. Morrison's assessment, introduced the signed loan agreements, showed the conservatorship texts. Reynolds ruled immediately. Counterclaim dismissed with prejudice. Original demand stands. Mr. Webb, I suggest you counsel your clients toward settlement rather than continued frivolous litigation. James was there. Looked relieved when she ruled, like he'd been waiting for someone to stop the madness. Friday afternoon, 3 letters arrived at James and Jennifer's house. Rebecca's surveillance captured Jennifer opening them. Bank notice accelerating foreclosure proceedings based on audit findings. Marcus Webb's office terminating representation due to irreconcilable differences. American Express canceling Jennifer's platinum card. Jennifer, reading these while reeling from the court loss, had a complete breakdown. Rebecca's report described her on the kitchen floor, surrounded by letters, crying. For the first time, James saw the situation clearly. They were ruined, and I didn't cause it. They did. Friday evening, I sat on Victor's terrace watching sunset paint the ocean copper and gold. My phone rested silent for the first time in days. Victor joined me with wine. David called. Webb officially withdrew. They have no legal representation. Can they represent themselves? Against David Holmes, they'd be slaughtered. David thinks they'll try to settle next week. For how much? Whatever they can scrape together. The house is underwater. The business is dead. Their assets amount to maybe $40,000 in equity. I did the math. $40,000 against $267,000 owed. They'll offer a payment plan. David recommends something reasonable, $5,000 monthly for 5 years, $300,000 total, but it keeps them legally bound to you, which has value. 5 years of monthly payments. 5 years of James acknowledging the debt, remembering the closed doors price. What if they default? Then we have immediate grounds for judgment and enforcement, but David thinks James will comply. He's broken, Russell. My phone buzzed. Text from James. Dad, I need to talk, not with lawyers. Just you and me, please. I know I don't deserve it, but please. I showed it to Victor. Your call. I typed, Sunday, 2 p.m., Bayfront Park. Alone. Immediate response. Thank you. I'll be there. Alone, I promise. Victor raised an eyebrow. Public place. Smart. You want me nearby? In the parking lot, just in case. Done. He refilled my glass. You know he's going to beg for mercy? Probably. What will you say? I thought about this. What did I want? Apology? Acknowledgement? Remorse? I don't know yet, but I know what I won't say. What's that? It's okay. Because it's not okay? It will never be okay. But maybe it can be acknowledged, addressed, and eventually moved past. Forgiveness? Understanding of what happened and why. Forgiveness comes later, if it comes at all. My phone rang. Unknown number. Russell Gray? A woman's voice, professional. Yes? This is Sandra Chen from Miami Herald. I'm working on a story about financial elder abuse. Someone sent me documents about your case. Would you be willing to comment? I looked at Victor, who shrugged innocently. Too innocently. Ms. Chen, I'm not interested in publicity. This is private. I understand, but with your permission, we'd like to run it anonymously. Miami businessman recovers from adult child's exploitation. It could help others recognize warning signs. Anonymous. Warning others. Turning pain into purpose. If you keep it anonymous and focus on education, I'll consider it. Give me your email. I'll send my attorney's contact. After she hung up, I looked at Victor. You sent her those documents. Rebecca might have, hypothetically, through intermediaries. Why? Because this happened to you and you can fight back. How many others can't? Maybe your story helps someone else recognize the pattern. My private humiliation made public even anonymously to serve a greater good. Warn me next time. Where's the fun in that? Besides, David approved it. The publicity puts pressure to settle quickly. My phone buzzed. Text from a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Gray, this is Diane Warren, Jennifer's sister. I loaned them money for their attorney. He just quit. They can't pay me back. Did I waste $15,000 enabling their manipulation? I feel sick. Can we talk? Even Jennifer's family was turning. I typed back, Monday, my attorney's office. Bring documentation. We may be able to help each other. Because if Jennifer's own sister testified about their desperation, the case becomes airtight. I set down my phone and picked up my wine. Tomorrow was Saturday. Sunday, I'd face my son. Monday, the media story might break. Next week, settlement negotiations. The wheels of justice, once set in motion, were relentless. And Russell Gray, the man who spent decades being too generous, too trusting, too forgiving, that man was gone. In his place, someone harder, wiser, unbreakable. To justice, Victor said, raising his glass. I touched mine to his. To justice, and meant it. Saturday evening passed in quiet contemplation. Sunday arrived bright and clear, the kind of Miami day that tourists photographed and locals ignored. I drove to Bayfront Park at 1:45 p.m., Victor following in his own car, maintaining distance but staying close. The park buzzed with weekend crowds, families, joggers, tourists feeding pigeons. I chose a bench facing the water, away from foot traffic. At exactly 2 p.m., James appeared. He looked terrible. Unshaven, wearing wrinkled clothes, 20 pounds lighter than 2 weeks ago. He walked like someone who'd forgotten how to carry himself, shoulders hunched, eyes down. He sat without asking permission, maintaining distance between us. Dad, his voice cracked. Thank you for seeing me. I said nothing, just waited. I know I have no right to ask for anything. I just needed to see you, to say I'm sorry. Sorry for which part? I kept my voice level. Locking the door? Taking my money for 20 years? Planning to have me declared incompetent? Be specific, James. He flinched. All of it. Every single betrayal. I was weak. I let Jennifer manipulate me, but that's not an excuse. I made the choices. Yes, you did. So what happens now? I don't know. I've lost everything. Jennifer filed for divorce Monday morning. The business is gone. The house goes to foreclosure in 60 days. I have nothing. You have what you chose. Consequences. We sat in silence, watching boats cross the bay. A family nearby laughed at something. Normal life, continuing despite our private devastation. Is there any way back from this? James asked finally. I considered the question. Really considered it. I don't know yet. But I know there's no way forward without complete honesty and real change. He nodded, wiping his eyes. I understand. We talked for another hour. He admitted everything. Jennifer's control, the manipulation, the conservatorship scheme. But he didn't deflect blame. He acknowledged his own weakness, his complicity, his choice to lock that door. When we finished, I stood first. Power position. Go home. Wait. I'll contact you when I've decided. Thank you, he whispered, for listening. I walked away without looking back. Monday morning, Jennifer's new attorney filed divorce papers. By noon, a process server delivered them to James. The filing was strategic, claiming irreconcilable differences and financial abandonment by spouse's family, trying to paint James as victim of my vindictive lawsuit. David Holmes called, laughing. She's trying to claim the debt is solely James's obligation. Creative, but legally nonsense. She benefited equally. The judge will see through this immediately. So she's saving herself. Like rats on the Titanic. Won't work, but it tells us everything about her character. Monday afternoon, the Miami Herald published Sandra Chen's article, Elder Financial Abuse in Affluent Miami. One man's fight to recover from adult child's exploitation. No names, but enough details that anyone close would recognize it. The conservatorship texts were particularly damning, even redacted. The story went viral in Florida's retirement communities, shared thousands of times, discussed on local news, picked up by elder advocacy groups. By Tuesday, I had 3 more interview requests. I declined all. The pressure on James intensified. Friends and neighbors recognized the story. The social isolation became complete. Tuesday, James received final notice. His consulting LLC was being dissolved for unpaid fees and outstanding debts. His last client terminated, citing the Herald article. They'd recognized enough details to identify him. That evening, Rebecca's surveillance noted James sitting in his car outside my burned house site for 2 hours, just staring at the empty lot. He'd hit absolute bottom. Wednesday at 9 a.m., Victor's gate security called. James Gray requesting entry. Victor looked at me. I nodded. James arrived in a battered Honda, his luxury car repossessed. He walked slowly to the door. Victor answered, pointed to the terrace without speaking. James stepped outside, saw me silhouetted against the ocean, and broke. Not manipulative tears. Real, ugly, soul-deep sobbing. He collapsed into a chair, unable to speak for several minutes. When he finally found words, "Dad, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just need you to know. I see it now. Everything you did. Everything I threw away. Everything I became. I see it all, and I'm drowning in it." I let him cry, watched him empty himself of grief and shame and regret. Finally, he looked up, eyes swollen. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to hear me say it. I was wrong. About everything?" I sipped water, considering. "Tell me about the divorce." She filed Monday. Took everything that wasn't nailed down. Her lawyer says she's trying to claim the debt is only my problem. David says that won't work. I know. I'm not fighting it anyway. She's right to leave. I'm a disaster. Bitter laugh. A 40-year-old disaster with no job, no money, no home, and no future. Self-pity doesn't suit you. He flinched. You're right. I'm sorry. I just don't know how to fix this. You can't fix it. Not quickly. Maybe not ever. But you can start by being honest about how it happened. I was weak. I let Jennifer control everything because it was easier. I took your money because it was there. I shut the door because she told me to, and I was too much of a coward to say no. I nodded slowly. That's closer to truth than anything you've said in years. What do I do now? You work, you rebuild. Not your business, yourself. You learn what it means to earn things instead of being given them. How long will that take? Years, probably, maybe a lifetime. And us? Is there an us anymore? I looked out at the ocean. Sailboats cutting across water, white against blue. I don't know, I admitted. Part of me wants to protect myself, cut losses, move on. But another part? I paused. You're still my son. That doesn't disappear. It just becomes complicated. I'll do whatever it takes, whatever conditions you set. Don't promise yet. You don't know what I'm going to ask. I stood, walked to the railing. Victor's world, built on intelligence and hard work. Everything James could have built if he'd chosen differently. The debt, $267,000. You can't pay it. I'll work for decades. Listen before you promise. My voice was firm. I'm not interested in bankrupting you. I'm interested in teaching you. So here's what I'm considering. I could restructure the debt, reduce it, tie it to conditions. But only if you meet requirements. What requirements? Employment. Real employment. You work for someone else. Learn humility. Okay. What else? Financial education, courses, budgeting, proving you understand money management. Done. Transparency. Every account, every transaction, complete access. No secrets. Yes. Anything else? Time. You prove yourself over months, maybe years. Consistent responsibility before any forgiveness. I pulled out my phone, opened David's contingency terms. The house, the one I gave you the down payment for. I could buy the mortgage from the bank, take over the debt, let you stay as tenant. You pay me rent, market rate. Prove you can make payments for a year. Then we discuss next steps. His eyes widened. You'd do that? I'm considering it. One missed payment. One lie, one manipulation, and it ends. Permanently. I understand. Do you? Because understanding and doing are different things. He stood, faced me. Please let me try again. Please give me one more chance to prove I can be the son you deserved. I looked at him. Really looked. The desperation seemed real. But I'd been fooled before. I need time to think. Go home. Wait. He nodded, accepting uncertainty. At the door he stopped. Dad? Thank you for not giving up on me completely. I didn't respond. After he left, Victor emerged. You okay? Ask me in a week. What are you going to do? Honestly, I don't know. Thursday morning, David arrived with settlement documents. Debt reduced to $120,000. James becomes tenant, paying market rate rent. Financial literacy course required. 1 year perfect compliance before renegotiation. Any violation ends the agreement. I signed. James accepted by evening. Signed agreement. First rent check. Job applications. Handwritten note. Thank you for seeing who I could be. Friday, Jennifer tried returning. James refused her, changed the locks. I'm done being manipulated, he texted me. Victor and I launched Gray & Associates Restaurant Consulting. My expertise, his capital. Small Coconut Grove office. By mid-September, steady income and purpose. The fire had liberated me from a life I'd outgrown. James landed assistant general manager at an upscale restaurant. Worked 50-hour weeks. Learned humility. Rent payments arrived early. I didn't respond to his notes, but kept them. Evidence, maybe redemption. Mid-September, I turned 68, moved into my own Ocean View condo. Victor threw a small dinner. David, Rebecca, cousin Linda. No James yet. That afternoon, a card arrived. Happy birthday, Dad. Thank you for not giving up on me. I'm becoming the person you always believed I could be. Not forgiveness yet, but hope. Later, alone in my condo, I stood on my balcony, looking at Miami's skyline. Russell Gray, 68, fire survivor, justice seeker, master of his own future. The fire took my house. My son took my trust. But neither took my dignity. I rebuilt that myself. 3 months later, James called. I got promoted. General manager. Could we have coffee sometime? I followed every term. I'm not asking forgiveness. Just conversation. 3 months of consistent compliance. All right. Next Saturday. Bayfront Park. After hanging up, I felt something new. Possibility. Maybe my son is becoming someone different. Or maybe not. Only time will tell. But I have something now I didn't before. Strength to walk away if needed. Wisdom to recognize genuine change if it appears. That strength, that wisdom, worth more than any house, any money, any relationship built on obligation rather than respect. My new life continued, steady, purposeful, free. The fire destroyed a house, but it forged a stronger man. Sometimes destruction is just transformation in disguise. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.